Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the TraderMerlin Show for your, what are we on today? It's the 14th of March. A fun trading session out there. Actually was excited and watched that one all day long. As you guys know, my put position is still holding those puts, so I was happy with what performed today. Also, what went on with silver and other precious metals, which will be the topic du jour. Not bad whiskey. Good to see you, not bad whiskey. We got Tom with us, Dana. We got David and Les as well, and I'm sure the regular posse will be joining us soon. Good to see you, Boss Poopa. So, as you guys see, my name is Merlin Rothfeld. If you have any questions, just type them in the chat along the way. If you're watching the video, put your comments down below the YouTube video, and I will answer those on an upcoming show, most likely the next one, which there were some YouTube questions which I will answer on today's show. That said, let's dive right into things. I'm going to talk about, well, first off, we'll talk about our overall markets, which is obviously in a bit of pain today. Lots of red, unless you were long Bitcoin or maybe Dow futures. So we'll talk about overall markets, talk about cryptos, talk about some bond yields, and then the metals meltdown. We've been talking about the melt up going on in the metals market, which has been almost straight up in the last couple of months. So we'll see if maybe this presents some buying opportunities. So I'm going to run through the top, I think 7 or 8, and then I'm going to dive into the metals. So we'll get that out of the way first. Let's start things off by going from the bottom to the top. Here is your crude oil chart. Long term, I still am bullish. We had a poll a couple times in this program, and I think a couple weeks ago or a week ago, we were looking at 150 on crude oil, and I still think that's definitely on the table. A lot of what we saw today just has to do with this escalation between Russia and now bringing in China into the equation and the U.S. So as far as oil goes, this is reflecting that maybe there's some calming going on. Of course, I know they're in peace talks again. Multiple times they've been doing these peace talks with Russia and Ukraine and other global people trying to resolve the situation. And, well, we'll see if that comes to fruition. Right now we're seeing just a retracement of that big move. Remember, we saw that ballistic red bar there that I drew, that diagonal line, to give you an idea of how much it moved. You're up 49% on crude oil in 10 days, and now we have retraced a good chunk of that. Just for fun, let's throw some fib lines on here so we can see where that retracement came to. And we'll start there, go to there. And we've had, right now, it hit a 78.6 retracement, which would have brought it down to 96.83. And we just tiptoed across that a little bit. But I think that this is just grandstanding, the whole peace talk thing. I just don't see it happening. Not Russia, but Putin in particular, seems to be just so damn stubborn in his ways. So I have to look at this as a potential buying opportunity. Now, I don't think we'll get down to that $88 mark. You guys, that's where we initially were looking at buying the breakout of crude oil. But today, 6.7% slide as we talk right now, sitting at just about 102. Now, fortunately for me, having bought a whole bunch more puts on the Russell 2000, this was pretty nice. You had about a 1.8% slide. It's up a little bit in the after-hours session right now, but the Russell still holding negative, meaning it's got this nice downtrend that started in November. You can see very clearly on this chart, lower highs, lower lows. Now, it has been basing. It has been going sideways for the past couple of weeks, but if we can't make new highs, as you notice, I'm going to just draw a little red line across the top here. You notice it has not been able to make a new high. So it's slowly getting pushed down by the sellers. Yes, it is holding this line right around, let's call it 1900. But if that breaks, we most likely will see a more substantial downside move as that consolidation will have broken out. So really kind of waiting to see what happens here. I like the way that transpired today. More negativity. We'll talk about China and Russia and other things here in just a second to see what those, talks or actions may have on this market going forward. Russell was your, number 6. Number 5, NASDAQ. Now, this one's even better because not only have we talked about this demand zone weeks ago, I think this is actually before we broke the 13,700 mark. We said if it gets below that, you'll probably see it come down to this demand zone right around 13,000. And we did. Now we're double tapping that and actually broke that low today just on an intraday basis. So for anybody who's really bullish on the NASDAQ, this may be an opportunity to pick some up. However, if we get below the low of this box, which is actually, let's do the low of the candle on May 13th of 2021, that low price is 12,915. If we close below 12,915 on the NASDAQ 100, I think you're going to see a much bigger move to the downside. So while it does look great, catching a falling knife into a demand zone, be careful because this could continue to go much lower as, in my opinion, as you guys know, that trend is now headed southbound. All right, now we'll just tip our toes into metals here just a little bit with gold. Here is a 1.6% slide in the price of gold, but of course, we talked about breaking out of this symmetrical triangle here for a while back, and it has been one glorious rip out of that. No surprise that we're going to get a pullback here. I guess the question in everyone's mind is, where does it pull back to? All right, this is where are we pulling back into? And there's some demand zones down around that 1865 mark, but I think we'll probably hesitate right around the 1930. Right, the 1932 mark was where I think you'll pull back on this gold futures chart. So we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. But all in all, an ugly day for metals across the board. This one doesn't seem bad, only down 1.61. Wait till we see the chart of Palladium. All right, S&P. Faring well, but still in line with my head and shoulders pattern here, which, again, I will leave forever until it finally reaches my target. Down 0.5%, so just over 0.5%, 4,171. Was down a little bit more than that today. Intraday, you saw lows on the S&P futures of 41.52. But that is still not to the low that we saw just a couple weeks ago on February 24th, when we hit a low intraday of 41.01. So I'm still anticipating us challenging that low like the NASDAQ just did, breaking that, and then we'll see this continuation, or we should see a continuation going on here. And Dow actually looking pretty decent today. Actually, believe it or not, see that color there? I'm colorblind. That's a green candle. You actually had an increase. Is that a green candle? No, it's a red candle, but it's up for the day because of the rollover and gap up. So it was up 0.19%. Really showed the same basic characteristics as the other indexes we looked at, the S&P, NASDAQ, and the Russell, but it gapped up this morning versus the other markets, which did not. So that was down 0.19%, but again, the picture still is bearish in my opinion. Now, lastly, BTC, Bitcoin. I don't really have anything to say here. Normally, I've got a lot to talk about with regards to crypto, but there's not much here, right? We are just consolidating, going sideways. It's nice to see maybe the moves have compressed a little bit. If you roll through some of the other cryptocurrencies here, you can see there was some 3%ers, some 4%ers, even some that are down 2 or 3, maybe 4%. So a fairly calm, quiet day, in my opinion, for cryptocurrencies when you don't see something in double digits on my watch list over here. So all in all, really nothing to speak of. I'm waiting for that break above 45,000, and that's all I've got to say about that. Where did Sam Seiden come up? Oh, it's for that question early on. What's the exodus of OTA instructors? I wouldn't call it an exodus of OTA instructors. It's funny because, I've been one of these people over the years that's quick to judge an action by a company. So let's say you have a company get rid of a really popular employee, right? And it looks at surface value like that employee left because, the company wanted him out. There were some issues with that employee or with the company or whatever. And then when you look behind the scenes, quite often you realize that the individual who was let go, and everyone's like, oh no, this company's in trouble because that individual left. You come to find out it's actually for the greater good. There was reasons for, in many cases, people leaving or departures of specific employees, whether that's for that part of that person or on the part of the company that let them go. So when you say something like the mass exodus, it almost sounds like these instructors are leaving in droves because they don't like it there. That's not the case. What you have in this industry is a rather cutthroat industry. Right, and if you look at somebody like Sam Seiden, or actually, as many of you have said, Sad Seiden or Scam Seiden, whatever his nickname is on social media these days, you have throughout the history of trading and investing education, you have people who are maybe good traders, maybe they just talk a good talk, right, and can make people believe that they are that great. Whatever the case may be, they're trying to make money off of educating and selling their craft and teaching people what they know. So what happens a lot of the time is you get somebody like an online trading academy who pulls together and interviews and brings in a lot of top-notch instructors. I mean, I remember one point we had over 150 instructors. Much of the content has been built using all of these people's input, where we sit down and say, what are your thoughts on this topic and how do you trade this pattern and this formation and this? And then you start to really come up with a much more solid batch of content. What happens is a lot of times an instructor will stay with with OTA, it could be another trading school as well, and they are under the belief that, okay, I can do this all on my own. I don't need to have back-end support. I don't need to have customer support service. I don't need to really have much of a community or documentation or accountability. I don't need any of that stuff. I just need to start my own room, and talk markets, and people will come, right? It's field of dreams. So just build it and they will flock to me. So what's funny is this has happened so often over the years. Is a lot of instructors start off at Online Trading Academy and they do really well and they become really popular and they go, you know what, I can do this on my own. And then they'll leave, and some may make it. The vast majority, from my experience, what I've seen, don't usually make it. And then what happens is they'll come back and be like, hey, can I come back and teach you? So, before you think, hey, it's an exodus, just remember a lot of them, especially the names that you've seen that are leaving, are trying to do it all on their own. So there's probably some conflict there. Who knows what the deal is? I've seen it, especially when the things happened with OTA years ago, where a lot of these instructors went off and just all decided to do their own thing. I mean, at one point, I looked at the stable of Online Trading Academy instructors, and I would say there's probably 30 of them were doing some kind of school of their own. Granted, they're not all going to make it. Maybe one or two does. Maybe some of them do rather well, but that's part of the reason. There's also another great, dedicated, amazing group of people that go, this is where I want to be and teach. If you are part of the OTA family, you got some awesome instructors there. So don't, hang your hat on one person's departure and think, oh, this is terrible. Anyway, sorry. Sam said want to take OTA at all costs. Unfortunately, he threw the students under the bus to satisfy his own greed. All I know is what I've heard, and of course that would be conjecture at this point, but with regards to what Sam has done, good news, good for him. I personally am one that believes in karma, and I believe that his actions will come back and bite him in the ass, and I really hope it does, because some people deserve what's coming to them, and let the markets dictate what happens to these individuals. But bottom line is, I'm just going to do my thing and stay away from people that I think are very, very bad people. Don Thomas says, Merlin, what about Shiba Inu? Seems it's getting lower and lower. All right, Don, don't take this the wrong way. This is not condescending towards you or maybe your interest in Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu is shit. It's garbage. It's crap. If you gave it to me in an account, I would immediately take it and I would dump that thing like a bad girlfriend. It is awful. It's garbage. It's a scam. It's a shit coin. It serves no purpose and has very little utility. Okay? So there you go. It's junk. If you're looking at the crypto space as this ecosystem that's going to grow and evolve, find quality projects, right? It was started as a joke. So it's going to keep on going lower. And I don't mean to switch topics here, but let's just jump on Shiba Inu. Where is Shiba Inu? Let me go by symbol here, and I'll bring it up for you guys so you can see it. Why is it not going alphabetical? There it is. So here's Shiba Inu. Why is it going lower? Because this is a pump and dump stock. This is a pump and dump stock. That's it. We got a pump and dump stock. So, and you look at GameStop, you look at AMC, those are the Reddit chat room stocks. This thing's going to go all the way down here to zero, where it should be. Because at some point, you're going to get a shakeout in the cryptocurrency industry. And I think it's happening as we speak, where a lot of them are starting to fall out of favor. People have realized that Shiba Inu really serves no real purpose. Same thing as Dogecoin. So here's Dogecoin, same chart. Right, look at that. It's just terrible. People are realizing that this is not worth anything, and it's a greater fool theory. One of the things we're actually doing in my Crypto Investor Live program is we're creating our own cryptocurrencies. I've created multiple. I've got about 5 that I've created so far. One of them I'm actually going to try to bring to market. I'm going to create a liquidity pool, and I'm going to create a white paper that says this is a pump and dump scam. Okay? That's it to me. So you got to be careful what you buy into. One of the main things we focus on is the products. What are they trying to build? How are they going to grow? And where do these cryptocurrencies have a place in society going forward? Whether it's gaming, business applications, actually as currency, transactional mediums. I would actually take Dogecoin over Shiba Inu for sure. Okay, let's go to the metal. Since I did tease clickbait here with Metals Meltdown. I wish I had a heavy metal riff in the background. Dun, 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 dun. Metals Meltdown. I want to start with Palladium. Now, we talked about metals last week. Of course, we've talked about the past couple weeks because it's just been so wild. Take a peek at what happened here, right? It's crazy what has happened over the past couple weeks here with regards to Palladium. Now, it was down 14% today, off 15%. And remember, we talked about such a large percentage of palladium coming from Russia. Now that Russia seems to be maybe on the verge of some peace talks, yeah, there you go. Maybe not. And right now, because of the peace talks, we're seeing this big sell-off. So we'll look at a few of these, and then we can, you guys can come to the opinion is this a buying opportunity in these metals, or is it just an about time that these came back to more normal levels? Now, if we look at the weekly on this bad boy, Palladium has been on a pretty strong uptrend since 2016. Right? This has nothing to do with Russia or Ukraine. This is just, it has been doing great. Maybe it's applications and utility and catalytic converters and all these things as gaining and gaining and gaining. If you look at the price charts, though, where's it coming down to? Many of you might recognize this pattern. You've got an RBR, which is a rally-based rally, right? It's kind of a big one, but you have that little spot right there, which we've pulled back into today. So, you know, I talked to a couple of my friends, and they're saying, hey, this is a potential buying opportunity here for Palladium. And this is, again, something that you have to judge your risk here. You know, if you're in Palladium futures, having a drop of 419 points in one day could evaporate your account. So I personally am shying away from these metals. I'm not messing with platinum or palladium. I'm not messing with really copper even. I'm just doing silver and gold is pretty much all I trade with in the futures or in the ETF market. But, you know, there is a tremendous opportunity here, especially when you look at where this was at our high point of 34.21 roughly to where we are today. We've seen a decline of almost 30% in 2 weeks in palladium. And on the grand scheme of things, if you're talking about buying into the trend, this may be a good point to buy into that trend. So anyway, I wanted to start with the palladium one because that was the most brutal out there. Of course, a lot of the other metals following suit. Here is platinum, right? So platinum, this again is the weekly, doesn't really look like anything special. It really looks like it was just traversing sideways, broke out to the downside, ripped back to the upside, and is now back within that range. So as far as a long-term buying opportunity here for platinum, I don't really see much going on. It doesn't appeal to me. Now, for the shorter-term intraday traders, look, you've got an uptrend that started back in mid-December, and we now have a pullback right into the origin of the last big move to the upside. I personally think that would, if you are bullish in metals, then platinum futures came right into a buying opportunity today. Now, as I say that, I always have to add a cautionary note. It says if you are interested in buying platinum and you decide to buy it, you better have a stop loss because you have a move like today, again, using a leverage instrument like the futures market, a 4% drop in a leverage account could cause significant damage to your portfolio. So it's about having stop losses in place and good risk management here because you just never know, is platinum done? Are we going to see it drop all the way down to, let's say, 800? Well, it could. But right now, you see this nice little uptrend here, the kind of intermediate one, starting in December of 2021. Looks like a pullback into an area of demand, in my opinion. Now, we'll keep moving up. We already did palladium. We did platinum. Let's look at copper, because copper was that great breakout trade for 2 days, and then came ripping right back into this yellow box here, which I'm just going to stretch it back out. We're right now back in the middle of that yellow box, but we are kind of in a spot which was the beginning of this last big move up. We had 4 huge days up at the beginning of March. Now we've retraced all the way back into that demand zone. So, again, are these buying opportunities? I'm curious to see what you, let me just, let's do this. No, never mind. Don't answer that poll. I hit enter and it just automatically sends it. There we go. 1 second. What? Oh, never mind. I'm trying to do polls. It's just not working. Never mind. That poll, don't vote in that one. I already canceled it. I'll let you type into chat. We've looked at platinum. We looked at palladium. Let's take a peek at nickel here real quick. And before I get into the nickel side of thing, I want to explain it a little bit deeper. There was a question that came in, and that was this right here. So Tim said, can you explain what happened with nickel last week? It's Nickel, by the way. Why did the London Stock Exchange reverse trades? Okay, I'll get to the vote here in just a second, Eric. So we talked about it very briefly, but I wanted to research it more because it was kind of a rare, bizarre situation. As you guys know, futures are used by producers to help lock in prices of commodities, right? So you have a situation, let's say in the US, where a corn producer would like to lock in a specific price, so he could be selling futures at a certain price, and he could lock in that amount. Well, what happened in the nickel market is you had one of the major, I had to write the name down because it's weird, it's at Tsingshan, was one of the major ones. It's one of the major nickel producers in the world, and they were selling futures products against their position to lock in nickel at a higher price. But all of a sudden, nickel went crazy, and here's the chart of nickel. Here's the chart of nickel. So what you almost had was a short squeeze on nickel created by their own people, because the producer sold a whole bunch of nickel futures, locking in a higher price. Who knows what that price was? 2,800, 32, doesn't matter, just the basic concept. So let's just put a line here, and I'm going to hypothetical say that let's go back here into February, right? It's mid to late, it's February 15th, right where this big vertical line is. I'm going to put on your screen. Let's say here's February 15th, right? There it is. And you're a miner of nickel. So let's say at that day, it's trading at, let's call it 1,800, right? I'm just going to just ballparking numbers here just so we can do a good example and you all guys hopefully understand what the heck happened. So there's 1,800, right? So let's say on the 15th, it was trading at 1,800, and these producers are out there just selling futures. And why would they do that? Well, because they could sell futures at a higher price and earn some money on those things, hopefully expiring worthless. So let's say they decided to sell them at 2,200. Oops. So at that point, if he sold all the way up there at 2,200, let me just do this, and we'll pull this down. How many of you think that this would be a safe trade for that nickel producer? Hindsight's 20/20. But let's just say you didn't know what happened, right? And you just say, oh, it's at 1,800. This guy just sold a 2,200 futures contract. He's selling them at $2,200. So basically, he's earning $2,200 per metric. I think it's a metric ton of nickel. You think that's a safe bet for this guy? I mean, that's a 25% pop. So he's basically saying, yeah, I'll sell them at 25% higher. I'd love to sell my nickel 25. Anybody here, would you like to sell your house 25% higher than it is today for, let's say, a month out? Everybody here would say yes, right? If I could sell my house for 25% higher than market value in 30 days on a futures contract, anybody want to buy that one from me? I'm more than happy to sell you this house as is for 25% higher. That's what these guys were basically doing. So what happened is these futures traders for the metals company sold these futures, and all of a sudden it does this within a couple of days. And they're like, oh, crap. So what do they have to do? They're out there trying to buy their own futures products. They're trying to buy it back to stem the damage. But all of a sudden, everybody in the world wanted to buy nickel futures, and you had these futures the sellers trying to buy their own futures. Does that make sense? So you have like double the buying pressure. So what does that mean? That means you get these types of moves like this, where it just goes holy crazy. And that's where you see your 100% gain. So that's what happened. Now, the real weird part of this story, which I wanted to make sure I did a little bit more research here, is what the London Metals Exchange. So I saw, Tim, you said London Stock Exchange. This is on the London Metals Exchange. So what the London Metals Exchange did, it was so crazy that when markets move that quick, I mean, and this is a absolutely monstrous move, a 100% gain in just under a few hours. What this did is it created margin calls like you would not believe. So all these brokers around the world that were trading these things short all of a sudden had to come up with huge margin calls to keep that position. So it was kind of unprecedented. What the London London Metals Exchange did is they canceled 8 hours worth of trading, which to me is crazy. Imagine for 8 hours you think you've got the biggest winning trade of your life on, right? You bought futures at, I don't know, let's say you bought it at $37.50, and within a couple hours it's at $5,500 on a leveraged product. You're like, man, I put up 10 grand and I'm already up like $200,000. You're partying. You're probably already at the club. And then all of a sudden the London Metals Exchange goes, you know what? We're going to cancel all those trades that happened, and one of them might have been yours. So that to me was pretty unprecedented what the London Metals Exchange did. But to to answer Tim's question, why did the London Metals Exchange reverse trades? It really was in the interest of stability of the network. So if they had not done that, you would have had liquidations by a lot of firms, and that could have caused even more dramatic volatility, let alone solvency. We've seen this happen before with things like the unpegging of the Swiss franc to gold. You guys might remember that one. Anybody remember the when the Swiss franc unpegged to gold? They used to be pegged. Their currency, the Swiss franc, was pegged to the price of gold. And when they unpegged that, there was one of the biggest moves I've ever seen. Let's see if I can bring it up for you. I don't even usually look at the Swiss franc, but let's see if I can bring it up for you. Yeah, Drew says I would be pissed. That doesn't even begin to describe my emotions at that moment in time. Oh, I would have lost my friggin' mind. I'd have been calling up everybody I could, just screaming. Here is, look at this move, right? This doesn't look that bad, right? This doesn't look too bad. Well, if you understand, this is a currency, by the way. This is the Swiss franc against the US dollar, and I'll go from where it opened that day to where it closed. You had, for a currency, a slide of 17.8% in a day. Now remember, Forex can be one of the most leveraged markets in the world, right? Most leveraged markets in the world. You can get 500 or 1,000 to 1 margin in different parts of the world. And if you were long the Swiss franc, which you were probably thinking, why would I go short? It's pegged to gold. It's tied to gold. So there shouldn't be any problem here. And all of a sudden they go, you know what? We're going to unpeg. Boom. Your account's gone. Your account's gone. You probably had to sell your house to cover your margin call. They didn't cancel all these trades with the Swiss franc, but they did with Nickle. And I thought, interesting move. It kind of, I see somebody here says London Metals Exchange is blacklisted from now on for me, from Jerry. Well, you got to think of it from this perspective. If they didn't do that, it may have caused a much broader systemic issue. So while I understand it, and I'm kind of like, yeah, you might have done the right thing, I also look at it from the perspective of, this is a free market. That's a risk that I would have been taking by going long those futures products or going short those futures products. So to me, that is the major concern, is we're no longer in a free market. It can be manipulated to prevent big banks and brokerages. Now, I can assure you that if you, individual investors, got screwed on this, no big deal. They're not rolling back anything. The reason this happened with Nickle is because a lot of the people who were holding the bag at this moment for Nickle were institutions, and big institutions, big brokerage firms, which I'm sure had a say in it, right? Probably some of the members of the London Metals Exchange were probably had connections and lobbyists with these companies that said, hey, you know what? Let's roll back those trades. So that's what happened, Tim. Whether you like it or not, it did happen. And Jerry, keep in mind, any exchange has the power to do this if it is centralized. If an exchange is centralized, they have the power to do that, roll back and cancel all those. And let's be totally honest. I think a lot of you right now may be thinking, well, this is why I want to go with cryptocurrencies, right? Decentralized marketplaces where nobody can roll back and manipulate. That's still not true, because even Ethereum, which was decentralized, had a hack where $50 million was stolen. I think it was 2015 or 2016, and there was like $50 million worth of Ethereum stolen. They rolled back the blockchain. Even though it was decentralized, they voted to do it, rolled back the blockchain, and erased that transaction. So, and that's why we have Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. So it can still happen, whether it's centralized or decentralized, but the odds are much slimmer in a decentralized marketplace like cryptocurrencies. So that's what happened, Tim. Kind of crazy out there. I guess my question is, now that we've got this huge move out of the way, is Nickle poised for more upside? I personally would shy away from Nickle just because look where the origin of this move was. If we take out this big pop and look at this chart right here, I think we'd all agree that's a pretty damn aggressive rally. I mean, going back to March of 2021, so literally a year ago, you were looking at 1,100 for the price of Nickle. Now it's 2,800, and that's coming off of peaks that were 5,600. So I think that this is still a little bit too high price-wise. When you look at something like copper, I'm looking at copper chart saying, while I like it long term, it's not giving me a ton of action here. I think we are in an area of demand as we are entering an area of demand very soon. You have, let's go silver, right? So silver pulled back right into an area of demand. Again, I hope that this closes right around this price on Friday, because then I will get my silver, or keep my silver, and sell some more in the money calls and generate some more premium off my long silver position, because I do think it's going to continue up over time. So silver, the breakout is holding. Part of the reason I'm still very bullish on silver is, you guys notice you've got this little area right in here. There's two spots. There's kind of that upper yellow part, or the breakout point, which would be here. And now we're retesting that. So, I'm looking at this right now. It's kind of a retest of the breakout. So retest of a breakout. If this holds, I think you'll see silver move higher. So awesome. Great for silver. We have platinum, which I don't know. I'm still not convinced of its trend one way or the other, although it is coming right now into an area of demand. So the poll that I wanted to ask you guys, let me get this one up here. 1 second. I wish I had TJ here to do all this work for me. Let's see. And there is the poll. Boom. Merlin, what if you already sold for the nickel profits? Did they reverse that trade too? Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. In looking at the amount, actually, how much do you guys think? And remember, it's an 8-hour window worth of transactions just in nickel alone, right? Just in the nickel market. What do you think the dollar value of the transactions that was canceled in that 8-hour window was? What do you think? Throw some guesses out there. It'd be pretty interesting. You think of how much things trade, or how the lemmings, right? The panic buying, the panic selling can happen so quickly. What do you think the total value of the canceled transactions in that 8-hour window of time were? Pretty crazy. The other thing, and I'm actually going to start doing something a little bit different here for you guys. I do look at international markets, but I just never seem to do it on the show, and somebody asked me about that recently. So what I'm going to do is I will create on my watch list here, which is right here, I'm going to create a international markets piece, so we can look at, the DAX, so we can look at the Nikkei, the Hang Seng, and different international markets. Oh, Rabindir knows. He read the article. Yeah, you guys aren't even close. Renminbi, it was $3.9 billion worth of transactions. That just tells you that the chaos that was happening in that 8-hour window. 3.9 billion is a massive sum of money. Remember, that's just for nickel, which isn't like the most actively traded metal in the world. But at that moment, everybody was panic buying, stress buying. You had people who were going, I got to get nickel because Russia's got a big chunk of the market and prices are going to soar because of the conflict. And then you had all these futures guys who sold the futures contract going, oh my God, we're going to lose everything if I don't buy these futures contracts back. So crazy. Tom, about the same amount of value as my Bitcoin. I wish, brother. I'll be honest, if I had a $3.9 billion Bitcoin position, I don't know if I would do this show. I would, but it would probably be rather different. I might have to have, who knows. Yeah, I probably would do it anyway. I love doing it. Okay, so there's that. And then that was just kind of, this show was spurred from Lee's questions of what the heck happened with metals today. That's part of it, is this, they're going to have peace over there, and now all of a sudden things are going to come back down. I'm looking at it personally as it's a buying opportunity. Again, really, if there is a peaceful resolution to all this, then you'll probably see these metals continue down. You'll see crude oil continue down. If we look at what's been going on with things like the Dixie, the dollar index, let's bring this one back up here. Here's your Dixie, which is pretty much unchanged on the day. Your dollar index looks pretty good. I still am in the camp of we're going to 100. I think we're going to go to 100 on the Dixie, which is that next big area of supply just in front of us. And today's trading, it looked like we were just going to start to, and just didn't quite make it. So, I think we'll probably see a stronger dollar. We got the, where's my bond yields down here? All right, notice the bond yields. We went from 1.7 to over 2% in 5 trading sessions. It's been a really, really big pump here in the yields. Now, of course, I have been a fan of the yields. I've been talking about how they're going to continue the upside, and that's just my belief. I know some people think it's going to go the other way, that yields are going to crash, which is a matter of perspective. There you go. Karen says, I would love a do-over on so many trades. Yeah, not only trades, Karen, but I mean, if you think of life's experiences, if we look back and you go, man, there's so many things I would have done differently, right? If I only knew then what I know now. Well, all we can do is just get better going forward, period. Whether that's as a human being, as a trader, as an employee, as a partner, whatever the case may be. It's just do better. Learn from it all. If you don't learn from your trades or your mistakes, then it's kind of as George Bush would say, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me. Probably one of the best speeches I've ever heard from a president. That was one of my favorites. Anyway, let's keep moving on here. I got a couple more questions to get to, and I want to make sure we get to that. We got the nickel one out of the way. Oh, yes. This is a good one. And Todd, you asked this one a couple days ago. You said, do you refuse to buy your calls back or roll by expiration if they're close? No, I don't. And again, this is just a matter of personal preference. Every one of us is going to do things differently with regards to how we exercise our options. I think what you're referring to are the covered calls I've sold against my silver position. When I sold those silvers, and I'll just bring up SLV here. So I sold the 2350s, but I sold them, right? We're going to be a vertical line here so I can show you that. I believe it was... I think it was this day here. I think February 25th is when I sold those calls, the 2350s. And I collected it really was a pretty good amount. It was like 2 weeks worth of trading was going to bring me in like 1.8% or almost 2% extra yield. And that's when we were at 22 something. So I'm like, fine, I'll sell the 2350s. And of course, anything above 2350, for those of you who know how options work, since I sold calls against my SLV position, if it closes at even 1 penny above 2350, I lose all my shares of silver. I've already collected premium on the option, so that's fine. But any of this gain, I would have lost. And not lost, but I would not have collected anything above 23.50. So I'm really hoping that we close this Friday at 23.49. That's where I want it to close, because I will immediately on Monday morning sell another batch of covered calls, probably at 23.50, and collect a nice big block of premium. So to Todd's question, I don't refuse to buy back calls. I just don't really see the point. I'm happy either way. If I get out of my SLV trade, then I will sell some puts and be gaining premium, hopefully to buy some more silver at some other point. But the goal is just trying to collect consistent streams of income. Collect it on a monthly or even weekly basis. I don't do too much on the weekly options, but generally are going to be monthly options for me. So it's not that I refuse. It's just, it was part of my plan, right? I would like to keep silver longer, but if I get out at 23.50, totally fine with that. Totally fine. It's a great gain in my book. So, thanks, Northside. Appreciate it. Yeah, I guess I got to do more gratuitous promotions. If you guys are new, which most of you are just regulars, I don't get new people anymore. It always seems to be pretty regular. So, anyways, hit that like button and subscribe. That always helps me out. Joe, Putin seems like an all or nothing type of person. Why are we trusting peace talks will go anywhere? It's exactly why I didn't close any of my short positions. And here's the interesting thing. I don't know if you guys follow the news today, but the wild card, and again, this is not intended to be political. It's just how does this impact the financial markets, okay? So don't hammer me for being political here, but China has abstained from this, right? And there's a lot of people that thought that this was China's opportunity to go invade Taiwan, because as the world's distracted with Russia and Ukraine, China's over here going, we'll just take that island back. That's ours. Well, who knows? That was all speculation. And now there's reports that Russia has asked China for assistance with regards to this conflict. And so now all of a sudden, I think why you saw a lot of this down move today, China's stock exchange, the Hang Seng, was down 7.2%. 7.2% in a day. Can you imagine, guys, you wake up next Monday morning and then the S&P is down 7.2? I might have to take the day off of the show because I would have been screaming with joy so hard that my voice box would be broken. But China, think of how bad this would be. If China assists Russia in any way, defenses, exports, tanks, weapons, whatever, what do you think the U.S. and global community is going to do? They will immediately put sanctions on China. Immediately. And then all of a sudden, Russia, okay, their goods and services are mainly natural resources. China is not. So all of a sudden, that could really put a big, big impact on the markets going forward. And that's, I think, why you saw this kind of panic move today, that if China, it's not even China's government, but even if Chinese businesses do, then we could start putting sanctions on those specific businesses. So it would create quite a wild ride. When does Jay Powell raise rates? Is it this week? Yes. It's going to be Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when it will happen, which is what I was surprised to see this volatility today. You look at the moves today. I really expected it to be a little quieter. Now, of course, when you wake up and you realize that China is down 7% in their stock exchange, that's obviously going to have some impact on our equity markets, and that's predominantly what happened. But these are some pretty solid swings here that we had today, especially right here when you opened up today. It had a little bit of a rally, and then boom. I mean, it was just pretty much down Periscope all day. A little bit of a rebound near the end, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I am staying short. I'm still bearish for the intermediate. We'll see what happens by the end of this week. I may lighten up some of my position so I can redeploy capital further out. As you guys know, right now I have the May contracts. I have 119 futures options on. I have 69 of the Russells expiring in May, and I have 50 of the S&Ps expiring in May, and I have 30 for June. So I might roll and go a little bit further out than normal. China stock got slaughtered today. Also have another COVID shutdown today. Yeah, so these things starting to pile back on. All right, let me see what the results for the poll were here, if I can remember how to do this. And poll. Okay, so wow, what's funny? We say in the financial markets that your most profitable trades will be doing the opposite of what everybody thinks. And when you see the results for the poll here, I said, are metals a buy at these levels? Bring up some metals charts here. Kind of interesting. The vast majority of you saying, nope, don't buy here. Which means that maybe I'll go buy some some metals, because I got to go the opposite of what everybody's thinking, right? That's what the market tells us to do. So anyway, interesting polls. And again, it's all about what you want to do and what your risk tolerance is. Little scary to me to be playing with nickel and palladium, but silver, copper, maybe a little palladium, just because of that big pullback there. All right, let's see. What else do I have? Any more questions? What time do I got? Oh, I got to wrap up. All right, let me wrap things up. If you have any last minute questions, feel free to type those on in. Here is your economic calendar for tomorrow. This is this is the wrong date. Way to go, Merlin. Loser. Gotta love when I put the wrong dates on things. It's actually for the 15th, so let me just do this because I can't stand being that wrong publicly. I have no problem being wrong, but if I can fix it. Today is the 14th, which means that this is going to be for the 15th. There you go. The economic calendar for the 15th brings us one really important announcement, at least in my book, and that is your producer price index. Remember last time we had the CPI number? We blew past the expectations for CPI. And of course, if the CPI numbers were high, then that pretty much means that you're going to see the PPI numbers higher as well. Remember, PPI, for those who might not know, stands for Producer Price Index. It's what it costs producers to make a specific basket of goods and services. And if that is rising in prices, then that means more inflation for us going forward. Now, I don't see anything other than energy prices which are going to really impact PPI. Not from the current situation, right? This skirmish that's been going on, this international tension that's going on, I don't think we're going to see that hit our inflation numbers for another month. I think it takes a little bit of time for those things to cook through, but certainly looking at how much oil has gone up. I mean, I filled up my truck yesterday. It's kind of funny. I didn't realize there was a limit, so I use Arco down the street because it's the cheapest gas in town, and I got the pump running. I hear it hit. It says $100. I'm like, oh, cool, $100 even. So I look at the meter and I realize I only put in like 17.8 gallons. And I have a 21-gallon tank, and I was bone dry. So I guess my debit card has a limit on it of $100. First time ever at $100 for my gas tank, by the way. So, I think that's going to take a little bit of time to hit the distribution costs and all these production costs. And again, I think we talked about this with Big Eb. I think you're going to see some much higher inflation numbers in the coming months. But we do have that PPI number, Producer Price Index, coming out tomorrow. That is going to be for the U.S. at 5:30 a.m. That's 1 hour before the markets open. Other than that, there are some pretty big pieces. The TIC long-term purchases, which is basically like are foreigners buying more of our equities and bonds versus we're buying a foreigner's product. So that'll be an interesting one to read as well. You have unemployment report coming out for the UK. Their rate is expected to drop from 4.1 to 4, so that should be good there. Gas in California, Jerry, it's $5 for the cheap stuff. Like pretty much the cheapest I'm going to find is in the fives. You start to get into the higher grades, it's 6 plus. It depends really where you go shop, but I think for the cheapest gas which is what I put in my truck, even says just use regular unleaded. It was $5.75 a gallon. Yeah, crazy. Are you expecting a crypto fire sale this week? I'm not. Look at the price charts. Fire sale to me would mean that these things have just absolutely cratered, right? Just dying, and there's buying opportunities. Well, let's look at some of them here. I'm looking at the ones that have crashed. Now, of course, Phantom, there's a lot of reasons why you should probably shy away from Phantom right now. That one's just diving, but that has to do with a lot of internal pieces right here. You look at some of the more bigger ones, let's scroll up. Ripple. I mean, does this look like it's a fire sale? It just looks like it's consolidating, right? Here's Aave. That's on a pretty good downtrend. Most of these are just consolidating. Monero. What's Polkadot, right? You got I don't really see anything dramatic here. Even Bitcoin, just consolidating. So I'm kind of happy it's consolidating as opposed to continuing this aggressive sell-off here. But I think not really a fire sale. I think if you are buying anything in the crypto space, you need to be really careful and make sure that if you are more of an active person, put your stop losses in place. If you're longer term, then you just hold on. You just hold on to it. Zach says uranium. I don't look at uranium. It's funny. I've actually had a bunch of traders on the program in the past, and they don't even look at uranium. So let's look at uranium futures here. This is something that I have no idea. I don't look at uranium futures. I'm assuming this is the correct product. Wow. You see a chart like that? That means that almost nobody trades this thing. It just basically has one price each day. It looks like a mutual fund price chart. That's very rare to see that. That said, it's had a just colossal move to the upside over the past 2 weeks. Who knows what it's going to be up? But no, I don't trade uranium. Sorry about that, Zach. When you make life decisions at the pump, yeah, right. GD Merlin, suddenly I'm hearing about e-bikes all over the place. Why are you going into business since you already have the contact in China? That could be your 10x trade. You know what? Here's why. I've got a lot of other ideas I think that could be great businesses. When you deal with these e-bikes, first off, I got to put them together. I sold one to a buddy of mine, and I said, you should probably put it together yourself so you understand how it works. Oh my God, what a train wreck. I ended up doing like an hour of tech support trying to help him put this thing together via the phone and FaceTime. Nightmare. Then there's ones that you put the bike together for, and they're like, oh, well, this makes a squeak here, and how about this? How does this work? It's like, I don't want to deal with all that stuff. If they want to buy a box and just take it away from me and I can be the middleman and all that, awesome. Let's have at it. Especially the way gas is. My plan was to ride my bike to work today, but I'll probably ride it on Wednesday will be the bike day to the office. I don't know. If anyone needs a connection, I got your connect. And there's 24 bikes up in LA right now ready. If you get a truck, I can get those for you. You can pick them up right now. But yeah, they're fun. They're so much fun to be riding. All right, I think that's going to do it for me. So tomorrow, by the way, I've got a couple of, actually a very good set of guests on the program this week. If you don't know, let me see if I can bring this one up for you. If you go to TraderMerlin.com, I'm pretty bad at updating this, and I apologize. I made this, like in a 10-minute window when OTA was having its issues years ago. Here's the guest schedule. So I'm going to have for tomorrow, ushering the digital world with Daniel Roberts. He's the senior editor-in-chief at Decrypt, which is one of the best sources to get your crypto and digital world news. They're just such an objective group. I've seen some sites where they're just very opinionated. These guys are good, man. They're very open-minded. They see things from both sides, and they're journalists. They really present things in a good way as opposed to biases that a lot of them will put in there. So Daniel Roberts will be our guest tomorrow. So if you have anything crypto-related, put him down below the YouTube video today. I'm also going to have Larry Jacobson talking option strategies tomorrow. He's got on Wednesday, excuse me. And then Thursday, we have Bill Addis on the program. So I've got some great guests coming up this week. I'm pretty excited about that. So if you want to know more about the digital world, specific cryptocurrencies, projects, let me know. Put your comments down below the YouTube video. That's the best way to do it to help out this channel. Of course, subscribe and hit that like button if you like it. And if you didn't like the show for whatever reason, that's fine as well. Just email me and tell me why. TraderMerlin@gmail.com is the way to do that. So that said, let's see. Anything else here last minute? I think that's it. All right. Thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I did. I think it's going to be another fun day tomorrow. Probably light volume. Normally, the day before an FOMC announcement, lighter volume, and then, of course, we'll talk about the FOMC announcement on tomorrow's show. So thanks, everybody. Hope you all have a fantastic remainder of your trading session if you're trading currencies and futures and all that. If not, relax, have a good evening, and I will see you all tomorrow. Take care.